Well, folks, it seems the world has caught a fever. Yes, we're talking about Trump's Cold War, a global game of risk played with real lives and economies. We're now in the era of impulsive tweets and tariff tirades, where seasoned diplomats are replaced by yes men. This isn't your grandpappy's Cold War with predictable players and clear ideological battle lines. This is a chaotic free-for-all instigated by a man who seems to think international relations are a zero-sum game. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to dissect the dumpster fire that is Trump's foreign policy. Let's kick things off with Trump's weapon of choice, tariffs. You know, those taxes on imported goods that he seems to think are magical money-making machines. Newsflash, they're not. Remember that whole trade war with China? It did the exact opposite of bringing back manufacturing jobs. American companies faced higher costs, consumers paid more, and the manufacturing sector actually shed jobs. Meanwhile, China pivoted to other markets, solidifying its position as a global economic powerhouse. But hey, who needs facts when you have Twitter, right? Trump fancies himself a master negotiator, the ultimate dealmaker. But his approach to international relations seems less art of the deal and more art of the temper tantrum. Take, for example, his withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. This meticulously crafted agreement was effectively curbing Iran's nuclear ambitions. But Trump decided to unilaterally pull out, slapping sanctions back on and pushing Iran closer to the brink. And let's not forget his love affair with strongmen and dictators. Remember NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that beacon of collective security? Yeah, Trump doesn't seem to be a fan. From day one, he's questioned its relevance, undermining its purpose. NATO is built on a simple premise: an attack on one is an attack on all. But Trump views NATO as more of a burden than a benefit. He's repeatedly berated member states for not spending enough on defense, threatening to pull the US out of the alliance. This kind of rhetoric is not just reckless, it's downright dangerous. It undermines decades of carefully cultivated trust and cooperation, leaving America's allies questioning their place in the new world order. Trust in American leadership is eroding, allies are hedging their bets, and the future of NATO itself is in question. Let's talk tariffs, shall we? Those magical taxes that Trump seems to think are the answer to all of America's economic woes. Slapping tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union is not exactly a recipe for economic prosperity. Remember that whole trade war with China thing? Yeah, that's not going so well. American consumers are paying more for everyday goods, farmers are struggling to sell their crops, and businesses are facing higher costs and uncertainty. Meanwhile, China is busy forging new trade deals with other countries, further cementing its position as a global economic powerhouse. The worst part is, Trump seems completely oblivious to the damage he's causing. Now let's talk about something near and dear to my heart, the environment. Specifically, let's talk about how Trump's decision to withdraw the United States from the Paris Agreement is a giant middle finger to the planet and future generations. The Paris Agreement is a landmark accord signed by nearly 200 countries, aimed at combating climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But Trump decided that climate change is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese and pulled the US out of the agreement. Trump's decision to withdraw from the Paris Agreement is not just short-sighted, it's morally reprehensible. The US is now the only country in the world that's not a signatory to the Paris Agreement, isolating itself on the global stage. Remember the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP? It was a massive trade agreement between the United States and 11 other countries. The goal? To boost trade, create jobs, and strengthen ties between the participating nations. But Trump decided to yank the US out of the TPP, claiming it was a bad deal for American workers. By withdrawing from the TPP, Trump effectively handed China a golden opportunity to assert its dominance in the Asia-Pacific region. China swooped in to fill the void left by the US, striking its own trade deals with TPP countries. The TPP withdrawal is a perfect example of Trump's America First policy backfiring spectacularly. Embracing autocrats, alienating allies, a recipe for disaster. Trump seems to have a knack for alienating America's closest allies while cozying up to some of the world's most notorious autocrats. Remember that time he publicly insulted Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Or when he threatened to impose tariffs on European cars? Yet, Trump has nothing but praise for authoritarian leaders like Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Rodrigo Duterte. This embrace of autocrats and alienation of allies is not just bad optics, it's downright dangerous. It undermines America's moral authority on the world stage and sends a message to other countries that the US can no longer be trusted as a reliable partner. The American economy from boom to bust? Remember those boasts about record-breaking economic growth? Well, folks, the party might be over. Trump's trade wars and erratic economic policies are starting to take their toll on the American economy. Remember those tariffs on Chinese goods? Those were supposed to bring back manufacturing jobs to America, remember? Well, instead, they've triggered a wave of uncertainty and higher costs for American businesses. Meanwhile, the agricultural industry is reeling from the impact of Trump's trade disputes. China, a major buyer of American soybeans and other agricultural products, has all but stopped importing from the US. Add to that the growing national debt, fueled by massive tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy, and you've got a recipe for economic instability. The Great Unraveling Declining Global Influence. For decades, the United States has been the world's undisputed superpower, its economic and military might shaping the global order. But under Trump's leadership, America's global influence is waning. Trump's America First rhetoric and his disdain for multilateralism have alienated long-standing allies. The void left by America's retreat is being rapidly filled by other global players, eager to step into the role of leader. The world is changing, folks, and America, under Trump's leadership, risks being left behind. For decades, the United States has played a pivotal role in addressing global challenges, but Trump's America First approach and his withdrawal from key agreements have left the world questioning America's commitment to global leadership. The Iran nuclear deal lies in tatters, raising the specter of a nuclear-armed Iran. The fight against climate change has been dealt a severe blow by Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. The rules-based international order is being eroded by Trump's embrace of protectionism. The world is facing a multitude of complex challenges, and America has abdicated its responsibility. For generations, the United States has been seen as a beacon of hope and freedom, but under Trump's leadership, that image has been tarnished. Trump's attacks on the free press, his cozying up to autocrats, and his questioning of democratic institutions have sown seeds of doubt. Allies now view the US with a mix of apprehension and bewilderment. The world is watching, folks, and what they see is a country divided against itself. This erosion of trust in American leadership has profound implications for the future. While Trump's policies wreak havoc on the global stage back home, the social fabric of American society is fraying under the strain of his divisive rhetoric and policies. Trump's presidency has exacerbated existing social and political divisions, pitting Americans against each other along racial, ethnic, and ideological lines. His inflammatory language on immigration, his ban on travel from several Muslim-majority countries, and his defense of white supremacists have fueled a climate of fear and intolerance, emboldening hate groups and sparking a surge in hate crimes. Meanwhile, his attacks on the media, his attempts to undermine the legitimacy of the electoral process, and his disregard for democratic norms have eroded public trust in institutions and fueled a sense of disillusionment with the political system. Trump's presidency has exposed deep fissures within American society, fissures that threaten to undermine the very foundations of American democracy. The consequences of this division are far-reaching, potentially leading to a more polarized and dysfunctional political system, a less tolerant and inclusive society, and a weaker and more divided America. The Dragon Ascendant. China seizes the opportunity. While America retreats from the global stage, China senses an opportunity, a chance to reshape the world order in its own image. With a potent mix of economic might, strategic investments, and diplomatic finesse, China is steadily expanding its influence, forging new partnerships, and positioning itself as a leader in a multipolar world. Remember those trade wars Trump started? They might have been intended to cripple China, but instead, they inadvertently handed Beijing a golden opportunity. As the US retreated from trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, China swooped in, signing its own deals with TPP countries and expanding its economic footprint across Asia. But China's ambitions extend far beyond its immediate neighborhood. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project spanning continents, China is investing billions of dollars in developing countries, building roads, ports, and railways, and securing access to vital resources. This strategic investment is not just about economics, it's about building relationships, cultivating goodwill, and establishing China as a reliable partner in a world increasingly wary of America's erratic behavior. As the US retreats, China advances, patiently weaving a web of influence that stretches across the globe. The European awakening forging a new path. For decades, Europe has been a staunch ally of the United States, bound by shared values, economic ties, and the collective memory of two world wars. But Trump's presidency has shaken that transatlantic bond, forcing Europe to confront an unsettling truth. It can no longer rely on the US as a predictable or reliable partner. Remember Trump's threats to slap tariffs on European cars? Or his disdain for NATO, the cornerstone of European security for decades? These actions, coupled with his cozying up to autocrats and his disregard for international norms, have left Europe feeling betrayed and vulnerable. But rather than crumbling in the face of American disengagement, Europe is choosing a different path, a path of self-reliance and strategic autonomy. The European Union is deepening its integration, bolstering its defense capabilities, and forging new partnerships beyond its traditional transatlantic ties. From trade deals with Japan and Latin America, to increased cooperation on climate change and digital regulation, Europe is stepping out of America's shadow and onto the world stage, determined to chart its own course in a rapidly changing world. The rise of the rest. A multipolar world emerges. As the US retreats and China advances, a new world order is taking shape. A multipolar world where power is more diffuse, alliances more fluid, and no single nation can dictate the terms of global engagement. From the bustling streets of Southeast Asia to the vibrant democracies of Latin America, nations are asserting their independence, forging new partnerships and demanding a greater say in shaping the global agenda. No longer content to be pawns in a great power game, they are embracing their agency, leveraging their economic clout, and pursuing their own strategic interests. This shift towards multipolarity is not without its challenges. It brings with it the potential for increased competition, friction, and even conflict as nations navigate this new landscape. But it also presents an opportunity for a more just and equitable world order, one where power is shared more broadly, and the voices of smaller nations are heard alongside those of traditional powers. The world is changing, and those who cling to the old order, those who fail to adapt to this new reality, risk being left behind. The power of partnerships, embracing cooperation. In a world grappling with complex challenges like climate change, pandemics, and economic instability, no single nation, no matter how powerful, can hope to succeed alone. The future belongs to those who embrace cooperation, who build bridges instead of walls, and who recognize that global challenges demand global solutions. While Trump's America retreats into isolationism, other nations are doubling down on multilateralism, recognizing that the path to prosperity and security lies in working together, not against each other. From the Paris Climate Agreement, where nations have pledged to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to the World Health Organization, working tirelessly to combat pandemics, to the United Nations, striving to maintain peace and security, examples of successful international cooperation abound. By pooling resources, sharing knowledge, and coordinating efforts, nations can achieve far more together than they ever could alone. This spirit of cooperation, this recognition of our shared humanity and interconnectedness, is essential if we are to overcome the challenges of the 21st century and build a more peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable future for all. A new era of global leadership filling the void. As America retreats from its traditional role, who will fill the void? The answer is a network of countries, institutions, and individuals. This new era is marked by diversity, inclusivity, and cooperation. Challenges are too complex for any one nation alone. From Paris streets to the United Nations to scientists racing for cures, a new generation of leaders is emerging. This is a transformation of global leadership. Embracing cooperation and multilateralism will shape the future. The global economy teetering on the precipice. Remember the halcyon days of globalization? Goods and capital flowed freely, lifting millions out of poverty. Those days are a distant memory. Trump's America First agenda has disrupted the global economy, teetering on the precipice of a downturn. It's not just tariffs, it's the uncertainty and unpredictability. Businesses are holding their breath, delaying investments. Global supply chains are disrupted, adjusting to protectionism. The IMF has downgraded growth forecasts, warning of rising trade tensions. A shock in one part of the world can quickly reverberate across borders. The tremors are getting stronger, the aftershocks more frequent. Section 2, A World Adrift, the Erosion of the Rules-Based Order. For decades, the world has operated within a rules-based order, a system of international laws, norms, and institutions designed to promote cooperation, prevent conflict, and ensure a level playing field for all nations. This system, imperfect though it may be, has underpinned global peace and prosperity since the end of World War II. But under Trump's leadership, the United States, the architect and guarantor of this order, has abdicated its responsibility, choosing instead to prioritize its own narrow interests, flout international norms, and undermine the very institutions it helped create. From withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal to slapping tariffs on allies, from recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital to cozying up to dictators, Trump has shown a blatant disregard for the rules of the game, the very norms that have governed international relations for generations. This erosion of the rules-based order has profound implications for global stability and security. It creates a world where might makes right, where international agreements are seen as disposable, and where disputes are more likely to be settled through coercion than cooperation. In this new world, the law of the jungle threatens to replace the rule of law, with potentially devastating consequences for all. Trump's America First agenda, with its emphasis on protectionist trade policies and its demonization of globalization, has unleashed a wave of economic nationalism around the world. Countries, sensing a shift in the global winds, are increasingly tempted to turn inward, to erect barriers to trade, and to prioritize their own narrow interests over the common good. From the trade war between the US and China to the Brexit saga in Europe, from the rise of populist leaders peddling protectionist policies to the growing backlash against free trade agreements, the signs are unmistakable. The forces of globalization are in retreat, and the specter of protectionism looms large. But this retreat from globalization, this embrace of protectionism, is a dangerous game, a race to the bottom that leaves everyone worse off. Tariffs and trade barriers might provide a temporary boost to certain industries or protect them from foreign competition, but in the long run, they harm consumers, stifle innovation, and slow economic growth. The lessons of history are clear. Protectionism leads to stagnation, isolation, and conflict, while openness, cooperation, and trade are the engines of prosperity, progress, and peace. As the world grapples with unprecedented challenges from climate change and pandemics to economic inequality and technological disruption, the need for global cooperation has never been greater. Yet nationalism and protectionism are pulling us apart. Can the center hold? The answer is uncertain. The stakes could not be higher. Trump's America First policy aimed for glory but left broken promises and frayed alliances. Tariffs backfired, hurting American businesses while China grew stronger. Withdrawals from global agreements signaled retreat, not strength. The world is now more uncertain and fragmented. America's standing and credibility have been diminished. But all is not lost. The future is not yet written. It is time for America to reclaim its role as a force for good, to rebuild trust, and champion the values that define its place on the global stage. This requires rejecting Trump's zero-sum worldview and embracing diplomacy. America must lead with humility, for our shared destiny depends on cooperation. It is time to turn the page and build a just, equitable, and sustainable world.